Okay.
Yeah, very
Let
good.
me share. Let me share my screen here. Desktop number 1. Share, and then
So
you should all see what's on my screen, I guess.
we do. We have quite a few Laravel people in the group, so I'm sure this is going to be useful to. And we had Christopher Pitt did a little introduction for us on Livewire a few months ago, so this is going to be
Yeah,
useful to a few
nice.
people, I think. So
yeah, indeed. This is. We're going to just use Livewire, but I'll give a short introduction for the people that didn't see Christopher talk about it.
Fine. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this because I saw you do a version of this talk at PHP UK a few years ago, so I'm looking forward to seeing the new version of it.
Yeah, this is like the Redux version. It's like the second generation of the dashboard. I'm heading. I'll explain a few key differences a little bit later on the talk. Why we had the second version, why we picked Livewire, and so on.
Okay, cool. Right.
Okay, I'll start with it. So, thanks for watching, everybody. It are strange times. I love going to in-person meetups. But while that is not feasible, we'll have these online meetups. And I enjoy them too, because I enjoy the informal nature of them. But it's still, as a speaker, a little bit strange to have no audience. And I'm talking to a screen, but here it goes. So we're going to talk about a dashboard that I've made a couple of months ago using Livewire and Laravel. I'm Freek Van der Herten. I'm a partner and a developer at a Belgian company called Spatie. Like many of you, I'm active on Twitter. My handle is Freek Meuse. I have a blog, freek.dev, where I talk about modern PHP and Laravel development. Together with my buddy Matthias, I run an uptime service called Oh Dear, but this one doesn't only check your homepage, but it will actually crawl all the pages of your site, and it will alert you when there's something wrong with one of the pages. I've also built MailCoach. MailCoach is like a self-hosted version of MailChimp, and you can send large volumes of email very affordably with that. And I've also built Flare, which is an exception tracker especially built for Laravel applications. Now, before heading into the talk about the dashboard itself, I want to say a few words about the open source efforts that my company Spatie does. We currently have about 250 packages registered on Packagist. They have been downloaded for over 80 million times now, and they are being downloaded for 4.5 million times a month, which is quite nice for a small team like ours. We're only with 10 people at the moment. You can find a big list of everything that we've done in the open source space on our company website, and I'm pretty sure there'll be something there for your next project. We also have a video section where we explain lots of our best practices, and we demonstrate how we do stuff. And most of these videos, they are sponsorware, so you need to sponsor us on GitHub in order to see them. But I think there are a couple of free ones to watch as well. Now, with that out of the way, let's talk about the dashboard. So let me first show you a picture of our office. And you see no people here. And this is basically how it has been today, because Belgium has gone a little bit in a lockdown, a soft kind of lockdown. But when there are people on our office, they can see this beautiful dashboard on the wall. So let's step a little bit closer and see what is on the dashboard. So our dashboard, it consists of a couple of tiles, and let's go over them. So here in the top left corner, we have a Twitter tile, and it displays every tweet where our company, Spatie_BE, is mentioned. And at the time when I took this screenshot, somebody posted a picture of a cat at us. There are also tiles for each member of our team here, and they also list the tasks that our team members should be working on. And I've placed obviously some dummy tasks here. There's also something fun here. If it's a birthday of one of the team members, he gets a little crown on his head. There's also the clock and the weather. We also have a calendar tile with some events that are important for our company. In the bottom right corner, we have a tile that displays, the status of the bike sharing system in Antwerp. So most of our team members, they come to our office by bike. And Antwerp has a bike sharing system called Velo. And these numbers, they represent the amount of bikes available in the stations near to our office. So that bike sharing system has an API and we use that. And here in the top left corner, or the bottom left corner, we have some statistics on our open source efforts. If there's somebody playing music, then we will replace the avatar of the team member by the record he's playing. And I was listening to an excellent song by Tool here. So let's talk a little bit on how this dashboard and how it works behind the scenes. So this dashboard is built using one of our packages called Laravel Dashboard. And it is a free and open source package. And that package, it takes care of the positioning of the tiles. So it offers an easy grid system where you can say like this tile needs to be that big, it needs to be placed there. And it also handles the state. So these components or these tiles, they have some data, and the Laravel Dashboard base package, it contains a model and a database table where as a tile, you can easily store some state. The tiles themselves are not part of the Laravel Dashboard base package. They are packages on their own. So this makes it very easy to install only the tiles that you need. And those packages themselves, those tile packages, they are very simple. They only consist of a couple of classes and that's it. Most of these tiles, I think 99% of them, are Livewire components. Now, for some of you that haven't heard about Livewire before, let's introduce Livewire. So Livewire is an excellent library made by Caleb Porzio. It's made for Laravel applications because it hooks very deeply into Laravel specific functionality. And what it brings to the table are server rendered partials. So if you let's explain what a server rendered partial is. So I think if in a classic scenario, you want to change some data on your page after it has been loaded, you'll probably use JavaScript to manipulate the DOM. Now, some people don't like to write a lot of JavaScript or don't like to pull in a front-end framework for that. And these are kind of situations where server rendered partials can shine. So what happens is that if some part of your page needs to be refreshed, using Livewire, you are going to re-render a part of your page, and Livewire will just get HTML from the server and place that into your DOM. And it makes that very, very easy. So you have no or a minimal amount of JavaScript knowledge is needed to accomplish all this. Now, to refresh all the tiles, we're not going to use fancy WebSockets here. I'm going to talk a little bit about that later, but we are just going to use polling because that is a very simple solution to our problem. If you want to know more about Livewire itself, then head over to livewire.com. There are some excellent videos there where Livewire is explained from scratch, and the docs are pretty nice as well. Now, I can talk a lot about this, but I think it's better if I just show you so you can feel what the dashboard can do. So I have a copy of the dashboard open here in PHP Storm. And I say the dashboard, but it's actually just a Laravel application. So if you're familiar with Laravel, then you recognize the structure probably. And I've already installed the package. And if I take a look at the resources directory in the views folder, then we basically just have one view here, the dashboard view. And currently it's an empty view. So let's open up a browser. Oh, excuse me, like that. File open. And we see the empty view here. So if I refresh here, then you can see that, that it is actually this view. So we start out with just nothing. Now, how can you use a dashboard? Well, in your view, you should add a blade component called dashboard. So blade views, they are a new addition to Laravel. And basically what happens when using blade views is that you can define which view should be rendered when a certain HTML tag is rendered. So behind the scenes, this is going to be replaced by another view that is in the base package of Laravel Dashboard. If I refresh here, then we see here a little gray background. And if I inspect the page here, we should see some HTML here. So this is working. Now let's place our first tile upon the dashboard. And let's start off simple. All tiles are Livewire components, and you can call Livewire components with Livewire and then the name of the component. I'm going to start with a time weather tile, and I'm going to position it. I'm going to position it in this part of the screen. I'm not going to explain it just yet. I don't know. I should close this, obviously, like that. Let's get rid of that. And now I should have a gigantic clock, but I don't. It is not theme weather, it is time weather. And you can see here that we have like a tile that is stretched to the entire place available to the dashboard. Let's make this a little bit nicer. We're going to just add the same tile to the dashboard so it gets a little bit clearer. I'm going to use C3 here. And now you can see we have two tiles with some space between it. Now this positioning, how does that work? Well, you can probably imagine an Excel-like spreadsheet where every row is numbered and every column has a letter. And that is what we're using here. So A1 is the first column, 1 is the first row, obviously, and C here, that's the third column and the third row. So that's how that works. And what we simply do is we convert these coordinates to CSS grid styles. If I inspect the HTML here, we should see some grid styles here. Yeah, here, grid area. I'm not going to dive into grid classes now. That's a subject on its own. But you can just remember that we use like a modern but standard CSS technique here to position this. Let's see. You can also have a range here. So if you want to make this a little bit taller tile, you can add a range here. And now this one should grow a little bit. And that's basically how that works. I like having a light theme, but not all people like light themes. Some people like dark themes too. And the dashboard, it has support for themes. So if I take a look in the config file of the package, then you can have a dark theme here. And if I refresh, then everything should be a little bit darker. but I'm going to go for the light theme now. Okay, this time component is actually something very simple. We just use JavaScript to render the time here, but let's try and use a more interesting tile. So I'm going back to the view, and I'm going to use a tile to render the calendar that you also saw on the photo that you saw of our office. So the calendar tile, it is called calendar tile. Yeah, let's leave it in that corner. And if I refresh here, we have no data at all. Let's see, how am I going to explain this? Let's first fetch in the data so we know that, that it actually works. So we are going to execute an artisan command. Let's see which one it is. It is fetch calendar events. It's this one. And now we have some calendar events, and now they appear here. And let me demonstrate that it is actually working. So let me open my calendar, and only the dashboard calendar is here. Maybe let's do here. This is a new event. Let's put it on the dashboard calendar like that. Let's fetch the calendar's event. Let's fetch the calendar events again. And you can see here that I got this event here. So this is all working now. Okay. Now that you've seen how you can use the dashboard, it's just simple to add tiles and to position them. Let's take a look at how it all works behind the scenes. So I've said that each tile is a package on its own. So let's take a look at the packages. So I'm going to dive into the vendor directory. I'm going to our own vendor here. And here you can see which one of our packages are installed in this project. And you can see that we have a couple of tiles going on here. And one of the tiles here is the calendar tile. If I open up the source directory, then you can see that is actually very, very simple. I've already said that a tile consists of only a couple of classes, and you can see here that I didn't lie about that. So we have a service provider, and the service provider is a class that sets up some things in a package. It can load a configuration file and such. It's a little bit boring. I'm not going to dive into this now. Let's take a look at this command, which I've just executed. So this is an artisan command. Let me hide that for a little bit, like that. So if you know your way a little bit around Laravel, then you immediately recognize that this is an artisan command. And what happens here is that we use an event class here, and this event class, that's part of another package of ours, the Google Calendar package. And with that package, you can easily get events out of a Google Calendar. We are going to use that class to get the events. And this all isn't really that interesting. It's just massaging the data a little bit. What is important is that we will have the events in this array here. We call to array here. So this is an array with events. And then what we do is we pass those events to a thing called a calendar store. And we call a method set events for calendar ID on that. So the calendar store is actually also part of this package. Let's take a look at that one. You can see if we skim through it, that it is also a very simple class. It only has 60 lines, and you can see that the complexity is not that high. What happens here is that we use a tile class here. And this tile class, if I click through that one, and I show you the directory structure, you can see that this tile model is part of the Laravel Dashboard base package itself. And it just maps to a database table called Dashboard Tiles. And if I go to the database, then you can see that it is a very, very simple table. We just have a name, which is the name of the tile, and the data. This is the data that that we just fetched from Google Calendar. So here will be that array with the event data. I'm not going to open it because I've seen right before the talk that there's like a calendar ID being saved here in as well, and I don't want to expose that. But rest assured that the events data is here. So this tile model is basically just a model that our dashboard exposes for tile packages to easily store data. If we go back to the calendar store, then you can see that the calendar store is nothing else as a wrapper around that tile thing. So the set events for calendar ID, and it gets those events, and it will just pass those events to the tile, put data, so it gets saved into the tile, and this will be called a little bit later on. So on the calendar store, we also can ask, hey, give me the events for the calendar ID, and it will actually use the tile again to fetch the data. So a store is really nothing more than just a wrapper around the tile, and you can have some presenter-like logic on it as well. Now, tiles aren't required to use this. If you want to create a tile and save your data in a JSON file, you can do so as well. But I thought it would be kind of nice to have a tile object present for the tiles that want to use it. Okay, let's go back to the calendar package itself. So we've already covered 3 of the classes. So the last one we need to cover is that calendar tile component. That calendar tile component is really the heart of the tile itself. So this one is actually a Livewire component. It gets some data. It could get the calendar ID. It gets the position here, and this mount method. All those things you can pass it here are the things that you can pass to it in the view itself. So you can see here that on the calendar tile, we use the position attribute here and set it to C3. Well, in Livewire, will automatically pass the value of that attribute to the argument named position. So now we have position here in our calendar tile. It also has a few public properties. These public properties are mostly the same as what you get here in mount. And those public properties, they are available in the view that gets rendered by this component. Let's take a look at that one now. So the second method that we have here is the render method. And here we are going to render a certain view and give some data, some extra data with it. So we use here the calendar store to get all the events for the calendar ID. And in the view, you've seen that I passed no calendar ID. So how do we get that? Well, the answer is here. If no calendar ID is given, we're just going to use the first configured calendar ID. Let's maybe go to the view itself. So the view itself is here. We're in the package itself. It contains this view, a tile view. And here you can see the HTML that is used on the dashboard itself. So you can see here that we have for all events, we have the title of the event and some time here, and that is rendered here. So here we have the event name and we have the presentable date here. Maybe that's also something good to show you. how to let you feel how Livewire actually works. You can see here that we have requests here going on for that calendar tile. So Livewire is actually polling for a new version of the tile. And if I take a look at such a request itself, then you can see here that in that request, a rendered piece of HTML is given here. And this rendered piece of HTML, Livewire will automatically replace it here. I will replace the old HTML by the one we get from the server. Now, it does that replacement in a very smart way. It uses a library called MorphDOM, and it will actually only change the pieces of the DOM that are changed. So it is really very performant to do that this way. And I think you can already imagine how an update works. So if I add like a new thing on my calendar here, and we use the command to pull in the events. And of course, we are going to see that in our real dashboard, that command is scheduled to run every 10 minutes or something. Then it will get, then the command will save the new data to the database. Livewire will poll the component for its new data. And because that component uses that calendar store thing, it will have new data and this tile will get updated. That's how that cycle works. Now let's go to the tile view itself and explore it a little bit more. You can see here that we use another blade component here, the dashboard tile component. And here you can see that we pass it the position and a certain refresh interval. Now, this tile blade component is part of the dashboard base package. And yeah, that blade component, it takes care of the positioning of a tile. Let's see how that works. So I'm going to the dashboard base package. If I go to resources views here, then you can see that tile component here. This is the blade view of that blade component, but there's actually also a class that belongs to it. Let's see where it is. It's in source, HTTP components, dashboard tile component. And just as with Livewire, you've seen that attributes of HTML elements get passed to a constructor of the class. The same happens with a blade component. So if I go to our dashboard calendar tile here again, then you can see that we passed position and we passed refresh interval here. If I go to the dashboard tile component class, then you can see that we accept those arguments also here in the constructor. And here you can see that that translation from the Excel-like positioning, so A1, to CSS Grid-like classes. So we accept the position, and we have a function here, convert to grid area. And here is the place where we do that conversion to CSS classes. And we set that as a public property on this component class. And each public property here will be available to the dashboard tile blade view. So let's go to the dashboard tile blade view. You can see here that this is a piece of HTML, obviously. And maybe let's first explain the slot here. So slot is a special variable, and it gets all the HTML that is between the tags of a component. So if I jump back to the calendar tile component, so what we get in slot is this HTML. So between the HTML tags. If I go back to the tile component, so the component itself, the calendar tile is rendered here. And so you can see that we wrap some HTML around it. And here you can see that we add a div around it with a certain style. And here we use that calculated CSS class here. That refresh interval in seconds that you saw being passed through, that is being used here. So if you use Livewire, how you can use the polling mechanism is just by adding an attribute called wire poll to it, have a dot, and then set the refresh interval in seconds followed with an S. And that's all you need to do to invoke the polling behavior of Livewire. And yeah, that is, I think we've covered like 80% of the code of the dashboard here. I think it is very, very elegant because it's so small to achieve all this. Now to finish up, maybe let's do something fun and use another tile. So for this last demo, I'm going to use our Twitter tile. So that's the tile that listens for mentions of our company. So I'm going to position it, and I'm going to just use the middle column for this, like that. If I refresh the page here, we should have a new tile here, and we do. And how we listen for Twitter tiles is using another package of ours. Twitter actually has a few streams available where every tweet is being passed through. And we have a package that can filter out that big stream. And I've configured it to listen for every mention of our company Twitter handle. So our company Twitter handle is Spatie_BE, of course, an ad before it. And of course, I should start listening for the stream. I don't know the command by name anymore, so I'm going to display all dashboard commands. And where is it? Here. Listen for Twitter mentions. So this is your moment to shine. If you now tweet something at Spatie_BE, it should appear here on the dashboard. So if any of you watching to this can tweet something mentioning this, then we'll see it happen. Yeah, there you see it, and it just works. So the package listens for tweets. If those tweets will get written in the database, and because this component is polling the whole time, we see those new tweets coming in. Maybe I can show you the contents of the database here. So here you can see that we got that tweet. Let's maybe do one more. Let's use an old account of mine to spam my own company. Hey, tweet. And hopefully in a couple of seconds, we'll see it on the dashboard. And we do. And that's how it works. Of course, let me go back to PHP Storm. You can have multiple of these Twitter tiles if you want. There's, I think, support here for setting a title. I haven't rehearsed this, so I hope that it is correct. So here you have the Spatie tweets. If I refresh this, you have a title here. You can also pass it like I think a Twitter ID, something like that, a stream ID. And if you configure multiple of these components, then you have built a Twitter wall in like 10 minutes. So it makes that very, very easy. Good. Let's go back to the slides. So this is everything that I wanted to see you in the practical demo. But I have a few other things to say about this. So this is actually, like I've mentioned in the start of the talk, our second version of this dashboard. And our first dashboard, it actually used WebSockets and Vue to achieve the same thing. Now let's compare that. So our previous dashboard that uses those WebSockets, those styles, they were all Vue components. And it basically was a single Laravel app. So it isn't, so we didn't have like a dashboard package. We didn't have any separate tile packages. It was basically just one app. And if you wanted a dashboard like our own, you had to just duplicate our project and modify it to your own needs. Now, what are the benefits that WebSockets and Vue had? Well, it was really real time. Right now, we are on the Livewire dashboard. We are polling. So it takes a couple of seconds to see the data. With WebSockets, it was nearly instantaneously. And if we those events that we that we had via the WebSockets, they were broadcasted to everyone that was connected to the dashboard. So if 1,000 people would connect to the dashboard, there would be no meaningful load for that whatsoever. Now, there were some drawbacks for that as well. So our tech stack become more complicated. So to run it, you need to have like a WebSockets server running. And there was also a build process involved. So if you wanted to work on tiles, then you needed to build them, and there were some steps involved to get like the latest version on the dashboard. Now with Livewire, there are a few plus sides and drawbacks as well. It's a very simple tech stack. It's just an application in a database. You don't need anything other special in your infrastructure to run this. It's very easy to package up tiles. You've seen it that a tile only consists of a couple of classes. And those tiles, they are also up to date from the first render because they now use the database content to immediately render the right state. With the JavaScript components, you possibly, if you didn't take care of it, you would display stale data because you could cache some data, but when you first refresh the WebSockets dashboard, you only are going to get like new data if like something is broadcasted, and then you're going to update. They're going to update it. So that was a little bit tricky to get that right. Now in Livewire, it's up to date from the first render. Now there are a couple of drawbacks as well. Livewire isn't real time, but it's really, really close. And for our use case, it's close enough. I don't mind a tweet that is like 3 or 4 seconds or even a minute later than it got tweeted. For our calendar, when we add something to the calendar, I don't mind waiting for a couple of seconds until our dashboard updates. Another drawback that a Livewire dashboard has is that the load increases with every user. So we use polling, and each time we poll, that's a request to the server, right? So if there are like 10 people connected, then it's 10 times the amount of requests that the server needs to process. If you have like 10,000 people watching the dashboard, then it's probably time to upgrade a server. A small server probably won't be able to handle that anymore without some tweaking. Now this drawback for the dashboard, for that particular use case, it's okay because we only have 10 people in our team. Even if they all open up the dashboard, our little $5 droplet is going to handle that traffic just fine. So for this use case, Livewire works good for us too. There's also another drawback, and that is that Livewire isn't an industry standard yet. It's just one guy developing it. I say it a little bit disrespectful because there are a few other people helping nowadays as well. But obviously, it isn't as big as WebSockets or Vue yet. I think that Livewire will grow in the future because there are so many people starting to use it and are loving to use it. And for use cases like our dashboard, it is really golden. So let's close off. So Laravel Dashboard, it is a very easy to use package to set up a dashboard in no time. We have extensive documentation about the package. So everything that you just heard me say is also in the documentation. It's easy to create your own tiles. It's just a couple of classes. There are actually also quite a few community contributed tiles. And maybe let's just go to our documentation site and take a look at the list. Maybe that's fun too. So we have Laravel Dashboard here. Overview of the tiles. So these are our own tiles, and these are the ones that were contributed by the community. There are actually quite a few very nice ones. I think one of the most impressive that I saw is the Vapor metrics one. So Vapor, that's a way of running your Laravel application serverless on AWS Lambda. And if I take a look at the screenshot here, this is what the tile renders. So it's an entire monitoring dashboard for your serverless application, and you can have this up and running in a couple of minutes, which is quite amazing, I think. Back to the keynote. And this is the URL of the documentation. Now, there's one more thing that I like to say before I let you go. And that is that we have created a premium video course on creating packages just like the Laravel dashboard. So you are going to learn in this course how to build framework agnostic PHP packages and Laravel packages. I share our best practices. It's a modern course, so we use GitHub Actions to run the tests, to run Psalm. There are also a couple of package source dives in it. So if you like this talk where I explain an entire package from scratch, you're going to love those other videos as well. I think I do 6 or 7 of our other big packages too. And in total, there's like 4 hours of content there. Now, to thank you all for watching, I've created a coupon code. Thank you for watching, and it gives you a 10% discount if you decide to purchase the course on our Laravel package training site. I think that the coupon is valid until I think a week or maybe 2 weeks or something like that. So that's everything that I wanted to say. I've also written a extensive blog post about the dashboard where I explain a few other tiles. That's this URL. And with that, my talk is over. I hope that you liked it. If there are any questions, I'd like to hear them now. I hope that there's somebody still here.
Yeah, I'm still here. Definitely, for sure.
Okay.
Okay, I see a couple of messages in the chat here. So Steve says, firstly, thank you for the talk and for everything you do for Laravel as a community. And then says,
my pleasure.
What sort of authentication do you use on your dashboard with it being hosted? So do you have some sort of basic auth or something in front of it to stop everybody? I assume you don't want everybody seeing what parts you're working on.
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you okay.
Well, I'm just curious how, back in the early days, etc., how you got started and got the motivation to start doing the open source projects and reaching out to that development, got the confidence to sort of do it. Is this something you just naturally did because you enjoyed it, or one day just decided?
I'll first answer the security question, and then I'll come back to this one. So for security in the dashboard, you can basically do anything that you want because it's your application, right? I'm still sharing my screen. I think if we take a look back at the source code and I go to the routes file, I think isn't it web? Yeah, web. Then you see it's basically just a route here. And how you are going to protect that is up to you yourself. Do you want to put this in like an alt middleware? Then do so. I think for our dashboard, I think we just use basic alt for that. It's something very simple. It isn't. I don't actually know how we do it in the latest version, but it is secured. You can't just serve to our dashboard. But if you want to do it with something other than basic alt, with like a real user, or maybe with something like Laravel Passport, you can do so because it's just your application. You can do whatever you want here. So I hope that answers that. Let me continue with like the second question that I got, and I'm going to stop sharing so I can see some of you. So how did I grow confident in doing things and starting with open source? It's really a long story, and I don't know if there's like time for long stories. So I'm going to keep it a little bit short. For the open source stuff. I think a couple of years ago, our company, or maybe I should say PHP in general, was a little bit boring. There wasn't a lot happening. This was like in the Zen framework 1 days. And our company was doing like CMS, kind of smallish kind of project. And I wanted to do something more. And I stumbled upon Laravel. And there was a guy named Jeffrey Way, which started the site Laracast. There was a course on there that teaches you how to build a package. And I thought, hey, this is something that I want to try. I still remember that he explained like continuous integration there. No, it wasn't continuous integration. It was like testing on Travis. And I thought, man, this is awesome. This is like another service that can warn me when one of the tests fails. Okay, I need to learn this. And so I started learning my first package. I think it was Geocoder, I think, that translates that uses the geocoding API to translate an address to coordinates. And from then on, I think I didn't stop creating like packages. So our company, it used Zen framework to build all these projects. And because Laravel was happening, we really wanted to be on the Laravel train. And if I took a look in like the services directory of our Zen framework 1 CMS, then I saw, this is like a list of packages right here. Here we have like the media library, we have a Google Analytics thing, we have something to transform data for APIs. We have the geocoder, and I just converted each one of our services to a package so I could use it in a Laravel application. That's how it started. And with sharing content, I'm really, I've talked like for half an hour here. I'm thirsty. I'm going to drink my beer in a sec. But I'm really a kind of introvert person. But it all started, my speaking journey, when my buddy Dries Vins started with organizing a meetup in Antwerp. And I thought, hey, I'm just going to try this. This is like a new kind of meetup. There's probably not a lot of audience. Let's try to do something very simple. And I still remember being very, very nervous before the talk. But after it was over, I immediately thought, hey, I want to do it again. And I thought, hey, I'm creating these packages. I can talk about these packages. I think a lot of people think they have nothing to say. And like most of developers, I suffer a little bit from imposter syndrome as well. But if you created something, you can talk about what you've just created. And the ball just kept rolling. That's how it went in a nutshell.
Oh, that's brilliant, Annie. It's just nice to hear there was a, because when you see Twitter and the talks and the status you guys got now, and it's quite nice to hear it was just a natural progression of, all right, this is great, this is a purpose we need to serve now. Let's create it, and so it's almost like of all it's become now was just never necessarily planned. It was just kind of
No,
brilliant.
there was no plan at all. It is just these packages, they are created for our own projects, and if other people use them, that's fine. But there was like never a plan like let's get big in open source or something like that. I also think in hindsight that would have been like a bad motivation, because you need to be a little bit lucky, and yeah, it actually takes a lot of work. It's not just creating. I think our company is getting a little bit known because we've shown up, I think, every week of the past 5 years with sharing something, but it's very natural to us. But there isn't a strategy behind it.
Oh, it's brilliant to hear. That is actually. It's just the moral of that is just do what you enjoy, and
yeah, indeed.
Brilliant.
Otherwise, you can't keep up with it.
Yeah, it's true.
There are some moments where I just have to step away from programming because I'm a little bit bored by it. And I've learned over the years that it's actually just fine to do that. Just if you don't enjoy it, just don't do it, and the joy will come back after a while.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. That is. I like that actually, because I won't go too off topic now, but there was a project I'm doing now for automation to tell me what products sell on eBay. I've automated a bit of machine learning, and it just finds the suppliers, lists the products, and does the orders, which is quite fun. But it was a lot more of a beast than I thought. And sort of doing it with a friend, Rich, of mine, and we sort of took about 2 months off it actually, because we ended up having quite we're sort of getting back onto it now and smooth. So the goal's still here, but
I think
we've got it to the point where it tells us. Sorry, carry on.
I think if you're doing something with machine learning, you should really blog about it, because not too many people know about machine learning. How they know the principles, but like practical stuff, how do I do something with machine learning? A lot of people are interested in that. So
hopefully next year. I've got a friend who's doing a master's in the university, a good university, and he said I can. He's doing a course in machine learning. He said I can do the course with him, which is nice, so I don't have to pay for it. So
cool.
Maybe next year, after I've tagged it onto his master's course.
Nice.
Yeah, you can always come and do a talk for us on machine learning as well. That'd be great.
Talk
yourself into it now.
There are already people interested here.
Yeah, literally.
But there's a few of us who maintain open source packages and Laravel plugins. So Steve and myself and a few others, I think, and it can be quite addictive, almost in a way. I think once you've released one, you want to keep releasing the next one, and maybe the next one's to present itself quite quickly. I found after that. When I've worked on a project, maybe I've released 5 or 6 of modules or plugins or something from that. Yeah. So cool, awesome.
Yeah, I recognize that too. That by solving one problem, you've learned something else that you want to solve, and it's just a big chain that doesn't stop. Yeah,
exactly. Okay, so I think that was all the questions.
With the dashboard, it was kind of crazy because I created a dashboard and then the 7 tiles all at once, so that was like working on 8 separate packages. That was maybe a little bit too much.
Yeah, that was the one question I remember everybody asking after the PHP UK talk was how can I make my own tile? And that seemed to come up multiple times. So it's good that the second way seems to allow for that, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's much better. I think if you read the documentation and the API of the thing that you want to display is simple, I think you can get it under an hour or something.
Awesome.
I had a quick question about the databases, if that's all right.
Yeah, sure.
I was wondering what database engine you use, so whether it was MySQL or Postgres or what have you. And then
The-
also, is it possible to use like Redis behind the scenes? Because I kind of saw it was like kind of key value store, and I was just like, oh, that could be cool.
Yeah. So what I've used here is just basically MySQL. Yeah, that tile model. Yeah, that's just a Laravel model, and I'm just using all the defaults there. But yeah, you've seen that I use these store classes to wrap the tile in. You can use for your tiles, you can use something else entirely. The dashboard or the Livewire component that displays your data, it doesn't care where it gets it from. Do you want to do a file get contents? That's fine. Do you want to do something with Redis? That's fine. Do you want to, I don't know, unsecurely load the content on the URL? That's fine too. You can do that. The component doesn't care. So if you like Redis and want to use it, it's no problem at all.
Awesome. Thank you very much.